Maintenant, nous entendrons le mot de professeur Moussouga Mohamed, professeur à PNT.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Alors, c'est Helio, quelqu'un de très généreux, et il m'a fait un beau cadeau aujourd'hui. Il m'a dit, tu vas être parmi nous, c'est un honneur pour moi. Mais la meilleure partie du cadeau, c'est qu'il y a 5 minutes, il m'a dit que je vais faire un speech. Et je lui fais confiance, et je sais que vous êtes tous impatients de voir les lauréats de plus près. Ils sont tout beaux là, dans leur attrait. Et je me mets à votre place. Et je peux comprendre votre impatience. Donc je vais vous aider dans votre impatience. Je vais les libérer très vite, ça veut dire que mon speech va être très court. Par contre, il y a quelque chose que je voudrais dire aux chers étudiants. D'abord les féliciter. Féliciter les parents, féliciter les amis, parce que je sais que ce n'est jamais évident de devoir s'investir autant dans des études aussi longues. Mais par contre, on se rend compte très vite que si vous pensez que les études sont longues et coûteuses, si vous essayez l'ignorance, c'est encore plus cher. Donc, n'arrêtez pas d'étudier. Et je demanderai à ces étudiants, comme dirait le professeur Lachio, en fait, tout commence maintenant. C'est-à-dire, je leur demanderai tout juste de ne pas s'arrêter d'étudier. De mon côté, je voudrais les remercier parce que j'ai beaucoup appris grâce à mes étudiants. C'est-à-dire, je me suis pris au jeu. J'ai commencé à enseigner en 1986 et je me suis retrouvé encore à enseigner. Donc, il doit y avoir quelque chose. Et je vous remercie tous. Toutes mes félicitations.
Maintenant, je cède la parole à Dr. Isla James, American University of Leadership Board Advisor.
Bonjour, moi mes amis. Well, I try. Like many of you, English is my second language. The difference I have is I get to develop it first. So I hope you will put up with my talk this evening. And first and foremost, I want to thank Professor Balou, the board, the staff, and primarily I want to really congratulate all of the students that have worked so hard to get here tonight. And I want to let's give them a big hand. In light of the number of speeches you've already heard, I promised Professor Lalou that I would follow the famous 3 B's of public speaking. The first B being be concise, the second being be brief, and the third B being be seated. So I will try to follow that in my speech. But I would like to discuss a topic that is important in today's world and today's workforce that I think the best way to start this conversation was to reflect on a comment that was given to me by one of my mentors when I was just finishing graduate school. And he told me there are 2 things that most people dislike a great deal. The first is change, and the second is for things to stay the same. Well, the second is no longer an option. When I was in school, sitting in a seat like this, waiting for my degree, there were no cell phones, there were no laptops, no tablets, no internet, at least as we knew it. So there were no distractions. People actually had to sit there and listen to me speak, which I'll let you decide whether it was better or worse than it is now. But you can tell that. But today, it's all changed. At that same time period, IBM, as you know, which in that time period, and I'm talking 19 was the major computer producer. And they just come out with the IBM 360. And if any of you remember COBOL and Fortran languages going back to that time, you know what I'm talking about. And they had just invented this new big, still mainframe computers, and they were still big, you know, the type that would fit into a classroom. And the reason they did that And they had people who could actually make it much smaller. They could make that same computer probably about the size of, maybe a couple of these desks. But they felt that their customers would not like that. And the reason they didn't want to produce that type of a computer was they felt that their customers felt that if it wasn't a big box, that it was not powerful and it was not fast. The market has changed. Now small and fast and cheap is much more important. And that's not going to change. Microsoft Windows began in the mid-80s. The first commercial use of the internet started in roughly 20 years ago. The iPhone was created in 2001. The iTablet was followed shortly thereafter. And now they have eyeglasses, which I guess they're going to call II. Facebook was started by Mark Zuckerberg, for those of you who don't know, and who was a student at Harvard at the time. That led to other pioneers in the industry, and now we have this great social media mix of information, news, video games, games that can be played, a constant source of information that can be developed. And it's an amazing, amazing task. So I look back at my father. My father was born in the early 1900s. And he saw the birth of aviation. And yet lived long enough, 60-some years, to see a man walk on the moon. Then I look at myself at times, and I say, 30 years ago, I was first introduced, 30-some years ago, I was first introduced to the computer age, as it were. And now I look at things now and say, oh my God, things have changed. So, what do you think your life, and I'm directing this more to the students here, what do you think their lives are going to be like in 15 years? What do you think it's going to be like in 2 years? Do you think that the skills they have now will be relevant? Who knows? I was lucky. The skills I developed when I was in college lasted quite a while, and before they became outdated. Now, and I'm going to refer to here a gentleman. Have any of you heard of Moore's Law? Anyone? It's an interesting concept. Moore's Law is basically named after Intel's co-founder, Gordon Moore, and is the observation, and I'm going to read there because I'm going to swear it, that over the history of computer hardware, the number of transistors on integrated circuits, and that's speed basically, doubles every 2 years. That law has proved uncannily accurate over the time, since that was first put to press in 1965. And it continues to be used for research and development purposes and for production of new products. So why is this important to us and to the new students coming out? Because it's important for them to stay relevant. And relevant, it means being on top of things that are going on in the world today. And how do we do that? How do you do that? And the only way to do that is never stop learning. And to learn is to be educated, and it's to go to places where you can get the best opportunity to get a very high quality education. And for that, I recommend American University of Leadership. For all we know, we may have the next Bill Gates or the next Mark Zuckerberg or the, famous person right here. I think they're probably going to be several of them. What do you think? Great? So, in conclusion, once again, I just want to say, please stay in touch with your school. Keep in touch. Stay in touch, use it as a resource, and don't be afraid to dream. So I started this conversation with 3 B's, and I'm going to end with 3 B's. The first B being, be inspired. The second B says, be relevant. And the third, and the most important, is be happy. Now before I leave, I would like to ask everyone, you've all been sitting down a long time listening to speeches, and I bet you'd like to stretch your legs a bit. Is that? Why don't everybody just stand up? Stand up. Okay, now take your arms and stretch them out like this. Okay, stretch your arms like this. Okay, now go like this. And thank you, because I've always wanted a standing ovation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And have a wonderful evening.
Oh